Welcome, everyone, to Mountview Live. My name is Benjamin Lafayette, and I hope you are and your family are doing really well in these strange times. I just wanted to bring something up before we kick things off. I just wanted to take a moment and say that if you're watching, please just, for this session, relax as much as you can. I've been thinking a lot recently, and I've just been realizing how long it has actually been since I've sat and just completely relaxed and completely just thought of nothing and just kind of escaped. There's so much going on in our lives at the minute, and I just think it's really worth just remembering that you can allow yourself just to relax and take some time for yourself. So if you're watching this, just grab a drink, whether it's a hot or cold one, maybe some snacks as well if you fancy it, and just really try and melt away to this installment of Mountview Live. I have a brilliant guest with me today. He is an actor, a writer, and a director, and also a fellow Brummie boy like myself. So I'd like you all to please welcome Adrian Lester. Hi, Adrian.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. Very excited about today. I'm very excited. I've got quite a few questions here, so I can kick off as soon as you're ready, really.
Yeah, I'm ready.
That's perfect. So I'm going to just go straight to the point and ask you where you were born.
I was born in Birmingham. I was born in Marsden Green Hospital in Birmingham. And for the first, what I remember as being the first 9 years of my life, I lived just by Summerfield Park in Edgbaston, which is on just up by the Dudley Road. So I remember as a little kid going off shopping and going into all of the sort of market shops along the road and getting the meat and the yam and the green banana and from various people that my mom obviously knew all the names of. And I remember that's a first name calling thing and how people say, how are you? How's things? And all that stuff. That's a very burnt into my memory. And then I remember I'm going to dive off an angle here, but it was about 2 years ago, someone was talking about organic food and, we must source organic food and all that. And then somebody else replied by saying, oh, you mean the food that our parents ate every day? And I suddenly went, oh yeah, that's what we used to eat. What's now called organic, is just what we used to have all the time. Yeah. Anyway, so there we are. We've just gone into vegetables, and all you asked me was where I was born. It's at Birmingham. Yes. Until I left there to come to London to go to drama school.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so lovely actually hearing, because it's I actually went back to Birmingham recently. Just hearing you say the street names and stuff is just really nice. Kind of say them to other people.
Good city. It's a good city.
Exactly. So yeah, actually, you just then also brought up going to drama school, which was my next question was kind of asking you, when you started out as an actor, like, was there anyone that you like kind of looked up to or strived to be like, or was it more of a I'm going to be the best version of myself? Like, did you have anyone that inspired you?
There was I was inspired by a lot of films. I was inspired by the actors that were coming out of America. I was inspired by Rudolph Walker and actually Tony Armatrading, who I met and worked with when I was a teenager. I was 14, I think. But yeah, I was inspired by the people, the usual list of, the Sidney Poitiers and the Paul Robesons and so on. But I was also inspired in Birmingham at the time when I was thinking of becoming an actor. The Birmingham Rep had a yearly company called the Young Company, and they would the director Derek Nichols would audition actors from all over the country. And then form a company that would work at the Birmingham Rep for a year. And these actors would play loads of different roles. They did new plays, classic plays, Shakespeare, they did the Christmas show, but they were a proper rep company. And I remember there were lots of actors in there that were brilliant. Alex Kingston was part of that Young Company, but also Ian Glenn. And I remember seeing Ian Glenn, who trained at RADA, in 1985, 86, in the Young Company, doing many different roles, and I was taken with how much he could change, and how his voice wouldn't sound the same, and his mannerisms would change, and all of that. And I was looking at him, going, "Oh, I want a bit of that. I want to be able to do that." It was probably more like, "Oh, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to do that. So I remember sitting with Ian and talking about drama school, and people came from everywhere, you know, Central, Lambda, you know, Royal Scottish, you know, all over. It wasn't just one particular place. But anyway, that made me see the benefit of a training that worked not only my intellect but also my physical sort of apparatus. And I decided to audition for drama schools, and I got in. It was 1986, and I got into Guildhall and RADA, and decided to go to RADA.
Nice, yeah. And would you say that was so? At that moment when you were visiting this rep company, and you were part of it, would you say that was the moment where you kind of went, right, acting is my career path and this is the choice I'm making?
Yeah, it was really. I started out. I started out in a cathedral choir when I was about 9, and sang in the choir till my voice broke, and then stayed on a little bit because I was a hanger-on, and then you know, at that time around 14, I found youth theatre. And I just joined the Birmingham Youth Theatre, and I loved it. I loved it because I realised that all the dancing I'd been doing, the bits of contemporary, tiny bit of ballet, but mainly street dance, lots and lots of breakdancing and popping. But I realised that all of that stuff and the singing could all be part of an acting performance, a theatre performance. And the same wasn't true the other way around so much. And so I wanted to become an actor. And I was always interested in the classics. I was always interested in work that would bypass easy associations of accent or region or, you know, attitudes or things like that, and actually would carve out a little space where people were expressing their soul.
Yeah.
And so that it mattered to everybody. And I thought, in my mind, classical work did that. A lot of classical work I couldn't understand, and you know, a lot of it was monocultural, but not all of it. Not all the stuff I admired on screen wasn't at all. And so I thought, yeah, I want to be able to do that. I want to learn what that is. So yeah, that's when I decided.
Yeah, well, I mean, I find it really interesting that, you know, you said that you looked at a lot of film and kind of looked at that, but then have such a long list of things that you've done in terms of theatre as well, which I think is like, because even though they're so different, you know, they all, of course, lend to each other very well. And one of the theatre shows that I wanted to talk to you about was that theatre show, which was As You Like It, when you played Rosalind.
Yeah.
And you just touched on, you know, playing these different characters, which you know, potentially are challenging. And, you know, I just have to ask you, how challenging was it to play Rosalind? Like, you know, it's not every day you hear an all male cast of As You Like It, or any Shakespeare at the moment anyway. So yeah, I just kind of want to get your input on that and get a bit more insight on that.
When Declan approached me to come and read for Rosalind, I wasn't sure at all that any male actor should play that role, and what kind of show was he going to be doing. And I didn't know Cheek by Jowl's work, so that, you know, didn't hold me in good stead for in my wondering about what his work would be like. Little did I know. But I just felt that in my mind at the very beginning, I had in mind some kind of attitude where the pretending to be a woman thing would be part of the entertainment, but in a negative way. Yeah. And it wasn't something I was wanting to be a part of. So I tried as eloquently as I could to respond and say, look, I don't know if I'm going to be the right actor for that, because I'm feeling negative about the whole exercise and so on. Anyway, I got a call again saying, from Cheek by Jowl, from Declan, saying he's not sure whether he wanted to do a male and female or all male version of the play. He just knows he wants to do the play. And would I come along and read for Orlando? And I went, oh, okay, so I'll come along and read for Orlando. But as I read for Orlando, as I sat with him and spoke about the world of the play, and spoke about the nature of love, and spoke about the attraction and the pressure that the two leads are under, and the world that tells them they should be divided and won't give them space to be themselves, properly themselves, and that it mirrors something that's going on in our society that needs to be opened up, but opened up with a little o, in a profound way rather than a big sort of tub thumping stand on a soapbox thing. And he said that it's very useful, he believes anyway, that it's very useful to take some of Shakespeare's plays and explore them with a single sex cast, be it male or be it female, because it starts to show us something about our attitudes to the roles we give men and women and what we think they should be. It starts to explode that for us. And I just listened to him talk and we chatted about it, and I realized I've got so much in common with this guy, and I really want to be a part of that exploration. So after I auditioned for Orlando, I then called him up and said, listen, if you haven't got a Rosalind yet, just if you haven't, I would like to read for Rosalind. And then I came back and did a workshop with him for Rosalind. And that's kind of how it happened. And in the end, he settled on an all-male version.
Yeah. And while doing it, how was your time doing it? Like, how did you find the whole show?
It was like a fourth year of drama school for me, working with Declan. Some directors you get, some directors you don't, and I just got what he was talking about. We understood each other, and I learned a lot as an actor as well about effort and trying and truth and all of those things. I wanted to try and be the best that I could, but I slowly realized, and it's something I realized later on camera, that if you try, what you're doing is you're making effort, and the effort is tension, and that tension tells the audience that you don't fully believe that you are because you're trying. So you have to do all the trying beforehand, and then when in the moment, just release. And the greatest release came for me when I realized that I didn't have to play every woman. I wasn't just playing woman, I was playing Rosalind.
Yeah.
And as long as I made my approach to her specific to who she is, then everything else fell into place. And the sort of commentary that I was sort of making subconsciously in my mind about moving from a sort of male space to a female space just disappeared. And at times in the play, then what was appearing on stage was just androgynous and was sexless, and it was just about this human being loving this human being, and the things that pull them apart, the things that tell them that they should be this or should be that, and therefore it's not allowed. And we just found a place where we were just doing a play purely about love, and about two people who, when you think of Juve leads, you think of people who are good looking and striking and all that, and and then they're going to fall in love with each other. And what we discovered in rehearsal was that it's not that. It's the meeting of the two people who are loneliest, who have the least power, who think no one is interested in them. And one is very, very nervous, but physically quite strong and skillful. And the other one is, again, very, very nervous and powerless, but she is bookish and smart and quick. And they find each other. And that was much, much, much more interesting to play than any other version of the play that I could have done.
Yeah.
And whenever I see As You Like It start, and I see a really happy, sparky Rosalind who's really witty and strong, I go, oh, okay, here we go.
There we go.
Because there's no internal journey to be made. And so,
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's an absolute compliment to to Shakespeare, and also to you guys doing like the storytelling in such an elegant way that it doesn't even feel like it's okay. Adrian Lester's playing a female. It's actually Adrian Lester's playing Rosalind, who happens to originally be a female, but kind of being able to watch it and distance yourself from that, I feel like is true storytelling at its finest. So, just hearing you talk about it, it sounds amazing.
Oh, great. Great.
So, and super jealous. I've had the chance to actually do that myself. So, yeah, no, it sounds fantastic.
Well.
But you talked earlier about your dance background, and I was actually reminded by a friend that you did Sweeney Todd at one point, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah.
So so I would say most people that would watch this, and I know myself, like I more saw you as an actor or knew you more as a straight actor, and wasn't too sure about your musical theatre background. So what are the challenges you've kind of come across with the musical theatre side of things as well? Yeah.
It's the musicals that I've done to any great degree have been Sondheims. So one was Sweeney Todd. I played Anthony Hope in Sweeney Todd, the sailor, and then I played Bobby in Company years ago, 1996, before most of the people listening were born. So I'm going to say it myself because I know it's true, and there's probably people out there just nodding along. Hate you all. But when I did that, sorry, I think my thing just beeped. I don't know if you heard that, but I'm going to turn my emails off because it just beeped. So the strange thing about musicals, apart from the worry of the singing, which is a big deal, it's strange to find a lot of musicals. The story carries on and goes on and goes on, and then there's a musical moment, a song, and they freeze everything. They freeze the character's awareness. They freeze the story. Everything pauses while we explore this particular moment in a song. When the song's finished, the plot hasn't moved on at all. It's stayed where it is, and then it moves on when you stop singing. That's one type of musical. But there is with Sondheim, you find that the characters and the plot and everything, the speech moves on through the song. So it's quite weird getting to a point where we manage our own rhythms when we're speaking. Even in a play, you can dictate when you're going to speak, when you're going to breathe. You can do all of that. But when you hit a piece of music, suddenly this train starts, and it will tell you when to breathe. It'll tell you how long you stay on a syllable. It'll tell you on a vowel. It'll tell you, it's dictated for you. And suddenly you have to sort of pause, slow down your emotional response to things and exist within one sentence, sort of 10 times longer than you would if you were speaking. And that's a weird skill, allowing yourself to be free enough to simply exist in that moment and let it ride. It's different when I think more musicals now, possibly because of Hamilton, are utilizing rap and patter and things like that. In fact, Music Man does that as well. It's a very old musical, but Music Man does that, where there's patter and almost like rapping in the song. So that's as fast as thought. But mostly musicals ask the actor to stand and exist in one moment for a long time and allow your voice to carry your thoughts through in a subtle but slow way. And that can feel quite odd when you first start doing it.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, so would that then mean that your process, so in the rehearsal process and maybe when you first get the material, once you found out that you've got the job or got the gig, would you say that your process into going forward with the material that you have is completely different, or do you like kind of lend to both like maybe a play as you would to a musical theatre show or vice versa?
I would do the same kind of work. You need to take care of your voice more, of course, but I would do the same kind of work. And when I have the song in front of me, I speak it in rhythm, so that I get used to expressing what needs to be expressed just with the words and the rhythm that they're going to be sung in, before I add the notes and start thinking about modulation and where I'm going to breathe. But speaking it in the rhythm that's been dictated for you and owning that rhythm as a speech is a great thing to do before you start opening your mouth to sing.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's just the reason why I bring that up is just because obviously the people watching this are both on the acting course and also musical theatre and other courses as well. And maybe might be an actor who loves musical theatre. I know I'm one of those people that I was on the acting course at Mountview and loved musical theatre. So even me hearing that is, amazing. And just like kind of realizing actually, even though there's two completely different worlds in terms of musical theatre and plays, that you can still use the same process, and it's still as important to do all those steps in your process, no matter what it is.
I think so. And I'm very much an actor who can hold a tune rather than the other way around or anything else.
Yeah. No, so that's super, super helpful. So thank you.
Cool.
On top of that, so I know you've done quite a lot of work with the National Theatre as well, the National Theatre itself and also the company. And I kind of wanted to just talk to you about that as a huge fan of the National. I just kind of wanted to talk to you about your experiences with the National and some of the shows that you've done, and if there was any insight for us as well.
The National's a great building. It's a really good building. the idea to have a national theatre is a fantastic one. I'm glad that they managed to get the site on the South Bank, and the company started at the Old Vic before it moved across. There's this great thing in the National that I think is brilliant, and it's that there's the three theatres, and they're all doing different shows, and there's sets changing, and there's matinees happening at odd times, and I mean, it's constantly buzzing with activity. Or at least it was, but and will be again, and will be again.
Yeah, it will. It will. You keep saying it. It will.
It will. But the dressing rooms are in this quadrant, and they overlook this is sort of a roof of another part of the building. But all the dressing rooms back onto each other in this the dressing room windows, and in this every floor. So for the Dorfman, it's on the the ground floor, the second floor, and then you've got the Littleton and then the Olivier. But it's in this sort of box, and your dressing room window, you'll look out and you'll see everybody else's dressing room. Not that you can see people changing or anything like that, but you get the sense that all the people who go out and go on stage to do the job are preparing in the same area. It's a great sense of community.
Yeah, of course.
And people applaud each other before they go on for the first night. So if a first night of a show is happening in the Littleton and you're in the Dorfman or the Olivier, people come to the window and they applaud and they bang on the window to wish everybody luck before they go out. That sense of community, getting together to achieve a common goal, is quite profound, and it is found in spaces like that at the National. Every theatre goes up at a different time, 15 minutes after each other, so you can hear the half-hour call, the 15-minute call, the beginner's call for every auditorium if you want to. Talking to people about how they first got into theatre and why they like theatre, why they want to be actors and things like that, and people always, by and large, always repeat that sense of community, that idea of a group working together, of a company, of everyone pushing in the same direction, of allowing yourself to be quite vulnerable in front of an audience, but inside a group of people who have got your back. That people don't forget that about drama, and I think that's why drama is used as therapy. I think that's why Fortune 500 companies will send a workforce to go away to do a bonding weekend, to do some drama, to do odd pieces of work like that, just because they want to be able to learn to trust each other and bond. And we kind of do that for a living.
We're lucky, I know.
We're lucky if we can get the work. It's not complacent at whatever level you are. There's always this point where you're going, are they going to call back? But that sense of community at the National is wonderful, and that's something that I really like about the place. The green room, all the actors going to the same place after the shows, all the actors preparing in relatively the same space before the shows. It's a great thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had no idea about that. That's completely new information for me. So it's brilliant. It's like the sense of community is so invaluable. It's something that kind of really truly shows the power of drama, and any other community that there may be, like, so for example, football and music. Like it's so beautiful when you have that community and you're all there for the same reason and you're there supporting each other. So it's just a really nice insight, Adrian. Yeah, completely. On the topic of support, by the way, I wanted to talk a little bit about Red Velvet. And Red Velvet is a fantastic piece. I had the luck of being able to read it during my time at Mountview, and it's a fantastic piece of work. And it's the reason why I want to bring it up is because it's an interesting kind of connection with you. It's not every day that you hear someone playing a character in a show that was actually written by their partner. So I just kind of wanted to kind of touch on that, just because it's such a unique circumstance, and kind of wanted to see what your time doing that was, and maybe in the build up to it, and if you knew that you were going to play a big part in Red Velvet when it was in the works, because I just find it fascinating, honestly.
When I got asked to do a reading at the Garrick Club about this actor called Ira Aldridge, and I didn't know who Ira Aldridge was, and this was 1998. And I by Edward Thompson, who is sadly no longer with us, and he's a sort of theatre buff, loved the theatre, and he was a member of the Garrick Club, and he said, would you please come and do this thing? And he'd handwritten out these sides of A4 in those days, printed or faxed, and it was about 40 minutes worth of reading about Ira being interviewed by a reporter, a journalist at the time. And it was just telling the Garrick Club members, those who came to hear the reading, just, what his life was like and who he was. And I got home after that, and I remember asking Lolita if she had heard about Ira Aldridge. And she said no. And I explained who he was, and she went, that's weird. And then we were both taken by the fact that we wanted to be actors, since we were teenagers. We did a classical training at RADA. She went to RADA too on the acting course. We've been working in the industry for a few years, and we have never heard of Ira Aldridge, and that's wrong. And she just sort of went off at 100 miles an hour and started writing to people in America, asking, museums and libraries, asking if they had a certain book by this person or a certain thing by that person. She got the biography of Ira Aldridge by Marshall and Stock, two writers who collaborated on his life story, and she started to read that cover to cover. Then she heard about certain things. There's a picture of Ira here, there's a picture of Ira here. So she'd write to museums and ask them if they could fax a copy of the photo of something or other, some documents. And she started to piece together Ira's life, and started to write the play as a film. She started off with a film first. We had some advice from some great people. And then she carried on working on it as a play. She felt that she wasn't, that via Ira, she was kind of writing everybody's story, really. Everybody who's had a dream and has not been able to fulfill it, or feels they can't fulfill it, they're not allowed to fulfill it. Space won't, the place won't allow them the space to fulfill it. And she wanted to write that. And she kept going. And then she worked with Indu Rubasingham at the National Theatre in a play. And she told Indu about Red Velvet, and Indu said, write it as a play. So Lolita started working on it as a play, and she thought, yeah, that's a good idea, I'll do that. Advice from a mate. But then it was only until Indu actually got the artistic directorship of a theatre, which was the Tricycle Theatre, then called the Tricycle Theatre in London, that Indu said, I'll make Red Velvet my first play. And Red Velvet had been, this was in 2012. And so Red Velvet had been going out to theatres since 2005.
Wow.
And no one wanted to do it.
Yeah.
No one. So every subsidised theatre in London, we sent it out and again. No one wanted to do it until Indu said, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And we entered this not knowing if it would work, first time writer, director, doing it as a first flagship show, working with people she knows very well, a husband and wife team. Everybody was saying this is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
But we're more professional than that, and it worked. It was nice to do something that I knew that was kind of, Lolita had me in mind when she was writing it. It was never a done deal that I was going to play it.
Yeah.
God knows when things happen and what you sign to. But it was something that I read every draft and I fed back and thought, oh, what about this? What about this? Not for me, but just in terms of what the play talks about.
Yeah.
And Lolita said some things about race and chance and perceived ideas and monoculturalism and so on, that by the time it was done in 2012, it was, I think it was news to people, and people didn't know who Ira was. But then it was done again in 2013 and 2014, and we took it to New York. Then Ken Branagh, in his season in the West End, put it in as part of the season in 2016. Yeah. And by the time it was 2016, people were saying, "Is this play a response to the to the Oscars So White thing? Is this play a response to?" And we were sitting there going, "This play was written way before." So people taking a revisionist idea of it anyway. But it's been a labour of love for us both, and it still remains something that's really, really, really close to our hearts. So that was, and it kicked off in a way a sort of formal writing career for Lolita.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's amazing. Like, I really mean it when I say, you know, the fact that you got to work with your partner in something that, you know, became such a success.
Yeah,
It's
that
so
was
unique.
lucky. Yeah, lucky.
Yeah, it's such a unique situation. So as I couldn't help myself but have to ask, because yeah, like I said, it's just so fascinating. And it's even more fascinating hearing about it, and just like, you know, it's really worth kind of highlighting what you said in terms of, you know, it was a long process, and it didn't take off straight away. And I think I know a lot of people, you know, when they put their foot out there, or when they put themselves out there in that spotlight, they kind of expect themselves to like kind of shine straight away. But, you know, sometimes it takes a little bit longer for that light just to fully be on and expose everything around it as well. So it's really, really great to hear that from you as well. So again, thank you so much for that.
That's right. We just realized we didn't, you know, in sending it out, she came to realize that you don't need everybody to understand your work. If you think you're doing something new, or you can see that what you're doing is new, then actually, if everybody that you send it to loves and understands it, then there's something wrong with what you think new is. So you don't need everybody to understand it. You just need one person who's going to give you the platform to do it.
Yeah.
And then you just need members of the audience, who are not everybody, to come find you, who will understand it. And I think that happened with Red Velvet.
Yeah, perfect. And I think there's just something a bit more, I don't know, for me, like listening to it, it's something a bit more desirable than like, having those select people that love what you do, than everyone kind of liking it, if that makes sense. Like, I'd much rather a select handful of people to love what I'm doing than just everyone else is kind of liking it or being like, yeah, it was good, like sort of thing. So I completely hear loud and clear what you're saying there. Absolutely. Before I started, I was, you know, before today, when I was kind of like thinking what I would talk to you about, I kind of wanted to like talk to you about everything, but you know, your credits is too vast at the moment. So I kind of wanted to just like touch on your TV presence a little bit.
Okay.
And starting with Hustle, because you were in Hustle for, if I did my research right, I think it was 8 years that you did Hustle.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, like, and you know, you play such an iconic character. I admittedly didn't watch the whole of Hustle. I'll have to binge watch it at some point. But yeah, you played such an iconic character within Hustle. You know, Hustle at its time was such a different kind of TV series. So I kind of wanted to talk to you about being such an iconic character in a TV show like Hustle, and also what it's like to be within a TV series as well. Like, you know, keeping that character for a longevity, and you know, like not it being like how you would in theatre, you do like a year or like maybe less, and then that's it and it's done. Where, you know, kind of doing a character that is forever evolving while you're doing it, while you yourself as an actor are also getting older. So what is that like? Like,
it's I don't know. I think Hustle was very, very unusual in that it wasn't a sort of it was a returning series. So it was 6 episodes. It wasn't 18 or 24, something like that. It just kept rolling. The other great thing about Hustle, I mean, okay, I've got to say that the style of it, Tony Jordan, the writer, was just brilliant. And Barrett Nallery, our first director, when they got together under Jane Featherstone and to kick off the sort of look of Hustle with Kudos, they hit the nail on the head with the kind of whip pans and the slow motion and the talking to camera, and the characters in Hustle knew that you were the audience and you were watching them. So, and Tony's fantastic idea was, we've seen so many of these shows that in Hustle, I want the people who are at home who are watching, I want them to be the 6th member of the team.
Cool.
I want them to feel like they're the 6th member of the team. So they're in the room with the gang while the gang are working out, whatever. It's a great idea, and it's a great sense of camaraderie, and it really worked. But the thing about Hustle for me as an actor is that I didn't really play the same character all the way through. I played a character who was pretending to be other people all the way through. So in every episode, I had to pretend to be someone else. And that's what I loved about it, because whether it was, an RP accent, or whether it was going to be London, kind of Cockney, South, North, East, whether it was going to be American, whether it was going to be, I had great fun thinking, okay, who who can this guy be?
Yeah.
And how am I going to dress? And what are my mannerisms going to be? And
Yeah.
there were times when I remember analyzing, because we worked with a pickpocket, sort of con artist, and someone who played poker and was a bit of a card shark. And they were telling us things about magic. And hustle was magic. Hustle was an activity carried out with misdirection so that everyone would look the other way while the cards were switched. And then you'd see the switch and go, oh my God, how did they do that? And then there would be a backup, a plan B for the trick. And then the trick would always come out at the end. So it was like a dramatic magic trick.
Yeah.
Or every episode. And I got to play a sort of a Nigerian dictator in exile. I got to play a London-based fashion designer who was really, really camp and really kind of just, effervescent. I got to play like so many Americans who were obnoxious and horrible, and then British guys who thought they were upper class and obnoxious. I got to play all sorts of people within the confines of the show, and I loved it.
Yeah,
That's what kept it interesting for me.
Yeah, it sounds like an actor's dream.
It was really.
Yeah.
What's my accent in this week?
It's like, how am I going to walk? How am I going to do this?
How am I going to? Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it sounds amazing. So basically, if you haven't watched it already, go watch it. Like I said, it's an actor's dream. And you can from what I've seen of Hustle, you can kind of actually see all of you loving it as well.
Yeah, we got on really well, and the team were great. It was fantastic.
Yeah, amazing. I also wanted to pick up just on your film experience as well, and you mentioned Kenneth Branagh earlier. And just kind of wanted to talk to you about his adaptation of Love Labour's Lost, and kind of talk to you about what maybe the difference between Shakespeare on stage and Shakespeare on camera is like, and what the difference is with that, and maybe if there isn't much difference, or what kind of ways you can maybe play with the language and how that differs on screen to maybe on stage, because I'm sure there's loads of things that are probably so subtle that we don't even realize as an audience member, but as an actor, probably it's so obvious and blatantly like in front of you at the time.
It's strange with Shakespeare, because Shakespeare plays really well in both mediums, in a big space, and on camera really tight. There's something deeply psychological nuances that happen in the middle of a soliloquy, where someone is examining their own thought process and how they feel about certain things. And weirdly, that works great on camera in a big close-up. But it also works fantastically in a big theatre when you can actually talk to people and go, did he? I didn't leave a ring. Did she think I left it? And they do this thing. So it gets that energy from it. And it works in both spaces really well. I've found that you save a lot of energy if it's on camera. It's just easier to speak with the fact the camera is so close and can see all the details. But what Ken did with Love Labour's Lost was, I thought it was fantastic. There'll be sort of mixed responses to the film and all that, but
of course,
I remember being at rehearsal, and you learn in all sorts of different ways from different people. I remember being at rehearsal, and we rehearsed it as for I think about 2 weeks, like a play. We did the songs, the dance routines, we learned it all, choreography, everything, before we started shooting. And then as we came to do a sort of run through in this big sound stage, the whole team came in, camera team and makeup artists and people who were building the set and props, and everybody was there. And Ken started speaking about what we were going to try and achieve. And he spoke about the beginning of the film, and he said, and then the titles will melt away and we'll have this with beautiful music written by himself, and then started giggling in the corner, the composer, and then he went, and then we'll move on with the beautiful set all designed by, and he named everybody that he was talking about. And he went, and I was realizing, as I was watching him, I thought, he's actually naming everybody in the room as he's doing this. And then he went, and then the music will settle and yours truly will come up with his silly face and he'll say, and then he began the first lines of the film. And then we all acted, And as we were acting, he said, and then there'll be a lift and we'll go into, and then he started acting, he started singing the first song. And as he finished the first song, he went into a speech, and as he was doing the speech to us, I could see his eyes welling up as he was getting into the speech. And then at the end of the last line of the speech, he just went, and then we'll move swiftly on over here to this place. And I was watching him thinking, how are you doing that? Man was singing, acting Shakespeare, telling you how it was going to be directed, and naming people in the room all at the same time.
Wow.
And I remember me, it's amazing. And me and Matt Lillard, who was in the job with us, we sort of sidled up next to each other. And Matt just went, how is he doing that? And I went, I have no idea. And then we went into the scene, you know.
Yeah.
But the adaptation worked really well, and setting it at a time of war and having to, you know, you're finding the love of your life and then having to leave them and take a journey and then come back. And, you know, I thought it was a really, really good idea. Great.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it's because, yeah, of course, there's always those people that will always say, oh, you know, Shakespeare should stay on stage. And, you know, I've heard that so many times throughout my life. But I don't know, I completely agree with you, actually, in terms of there's something about someone speaking softly and saying a soliloquy, like a Shakespearean soliloquy, and just having that, like, being basically forced to, like, just look at someone and see them as for all they are, and see all the little details and what they're saying as well. There's just something that you of course, that is also something you can see on stage, but there's just an extra quality when you just can really see every part of someone's face as they're talking, and, you know, they're getting really emotional with such beautiful language as well. Yeah. So I definitely think
it's great.
There's definitely a space for it on TV, and film, sorry, like, completely. Which is why, why I really wanted to bring it up with you. And along that with your film appearances, just to mention a couple being The Day After Tomorrow, and I have to mention it because I'm a big fan of Spider-Man, but your small little feature on Spider-Man 3. I kind of I had to mention it, I'm sorry.
Cut.
But I just wanted to ask you how important, so this is kind of more to current drama school students, and what I would have asked you if I was still at drama school, maybe in my first year, but how important do you feel film is for an actor in terms of their growth? Like, do you think it's something that every actor should do, or do you think it's something that you should try and do, or is it, I don't know, what's your kind of feel on it? Because for me, it's something that I would love to do, but is it essential, is what I'm kind of asking.
I think to work fully now, you know, work is hard to come by at the best of times. I think it's the more strings you have to your bow, the more awareness you have of different working environments, different media is great. You know, you are aware and know how to work on the radio. You know how to handle a studio space or a space in the round, which is a different acting experience. You know how to handle a big theatre like the Olivier. You can be a stage animal in that way, and you know how to convey character, thought, process, emotion, and words when you know that your face is going to be blown up and each eye could be a meter or two across. So on a big screen. So you if you're aware of all of that, then it means you're happy working in very, very different environments. When I left drama school, we'd only trained for the stage classically. We did some radio as well. But my first job on a set, film set or TV set, I was just sort of all wide-eyed going, what the heck? Cables and marks and focus mark and so on. Learning what the camera lens is going to do. And so I suppose I really got well versed in that world while doing Hustle, so much so that it made me want to direct. And I started to play with the idea of actually being behind the camera. I think it is necessary. I do think so. I think that anything that increases your opportunities, increases your access to possible work, is worth exploring, worth learning. I would say if you're an actor who, you know, just strictly doing that, I'd say, yeah, mate, go do some dance classes, learn to move, keep moving, and keep moving throughout your career. Because even if you don't dance, you will be doing something that requires that physicality and that precision and timing in your movement. Learn how to sing, modulate your voice. Just have singing lessons anyway. Even if you never sing in a production, just understand what that is. Understand how to work those muscles in a different way, because it can only help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, completely taken the words out of my mouth in terms of just adding an extra string to your bow. I think that is literally the kind of, if I could make it into a newspaper headline, that would be it. Because it makes so much sense. You know, you could go through your whole life. It's kind of like, I guess it's like, in a way, like driving a car. Like you might live in London and never need to, but it's good to just be able to have that under your belt just in case you ever had to. And I think it's
ever had to go to LA?
Yeah.
You will need a car. You best learn to drive. They drive on the wrong side of the road, but yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, completely hear what you're saying in terms of that. And also, it's just really nice to be able to say you can dance and sing and do all those other things as well, and also just to experience it as well in terms of like film. I know I would love it. So yeah, but so I've definitely asked all my questions, and you know there were a lot, so I apologize about how many there were.
Cool.
But
That's cool.
I've got some student questions, and I will start off with Amelia's, which she said, do you have a preference for theatre or film, and does your approach to a role differ in any way depending on where your character will be performed?
I don't have a preference for theatre or film. Time passed when I was doing something on stage, no matter how hard I worked, and no matter how much we felt we'd achieved in the theatre production, when you came to that last performance, that was it. It was gone. It's not so much the same. It's true now because things are recorded properly for posterity so that they can be streamed sometimes. But years ago, that was the end of it, and you didn't get to do that. It'll be like that again. And in theatre, in film, whatever you did is always there. It's saved. There's work still available out there that I did when I was 24 or 27. It's still out there, and that can be seen. I wouldn't change my preparation for either space, except that I knew that when I was on stage, more was being asked of me as an actor. I have had, and I kind of still have, one of those careers where when I do something on stage, what's asked of me emotionally and physically is great. And I've got to that very, very lucky position. But what's asked of me on film, on television or film, never matches that really. There's been a couple of rare occasions where I've been asked to convey those kind of complex emotions and do that with a character on screen. But normally I work harder emotionally on stage than I do on screen, and physically too. So the preparation has to be one of complete relaxation. I sing 3 weeks before I'm going to do anything on stage. I get my voice ready. I'm singing before I go into rehearsal. And then in rehearsal, you're already upping the projection and everything. Your muscle needs to be able to do that with all the movement that you're going to be doing. When I was playing Othello at the National and Henry V at the National, I sang before I got into the rehearsal room regularly every day. And then when I was in the rehearsal room and I was working the text, I sort of employed as a method of slightly over projecting. And by that, it sounds forced. But what I meant was I tried to imagine that I was playing in a much larger space than I would be, a bigger space than the Olivier Theatre, unmiked as we were then. So I tried to work the muscles of the diaphragm much more, and yet try and make it sound like naturalistic speech as much as possible. So that by the time I got on stage during the tech, I felt like I could actually come down a little and relax a little in terms of the technical effort of producing the sound. So I did that to myself for theatre. On screen, you don't have to worry about that. And on screen as well, you work in a way that you can lose yourself entirely in the moment, but very quickly So you have to ignore cables and lighting and set and camera and everything and work off the person you're working with and get lost inside the material within a matter of hours. And you stay lost inside it all day and then it's done. You will never do that scene again.
Yeah.
It's gone. And you might come back a week later and go, oh, that's how I should have done it. Oh, damn. But it's gone. So you have to be prepared to be so relaxed on screen that it's effortless and looks like you're almost doing nothing. Whereas on stage in a big space, yes, it's effortless, but you do have to apply a certain amount of muscularity to your technique to sustain 8 shows a week and just sustain scene after scene after scene after scene in one go like that. So the preparation beforehand for me is, you know, I suppose they're both imaginative, but on screen it's much more of a detailed imaginative work, relaxation in the moment, and then just getting lost in that. And then on stage, you do that for rehearsal, but on stage when you come to execute the piece, you have to be warm, relaxed, every single muscle in your body stretched, not thinking about anything else, and leaving yourself open to let the piece work through you. Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And you know, Amelia's was a really fantastic question from her, actually, because again, it's something that comes while you're in training. I don't know if you felt felt the same when you were training, but it's something that does kind of come to your mind. You always kind of almost feel like you have to say that you prefer one or the other in terms of stage and screen. And you know, a lot of the drama school training at the minute is primarily stage, so you kind of lean more into that. But you know, you don't really need to have a preference, and actually at this point, in terms of the work that's happening, you probably shouldn't have a preference. Yeah, no, I completely hear what you're saying with the preparation as well. And I never thought of over projecting to then kind of get it into your muscle memory of how loud or how much you need to project in a space. So I will definitely be taking notes for that one.
I think over projection is probably I bet there's voice teachers going,
no, don't tell them that.
No, that's bad. But I think it's just a way of making sure that the only tension that exists in your body is just, you know, behind your belly button and below your belly button, and it's that support. There's nothing up here, nothing. It's all free, and supported by that, you can make quite a large sound. And then it's not the sound you make, but the way you break it up that denotes speech. If somebody stands on stage and goes, we'll hear it, no matter how far away we are. But it's just how they break that sound up with their tip of the tongue and the teeth and the lips that denotes words. It's that we can't hear sometimes.
Yeah.
So it becomes more about diction than it is about producing sound.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, she's not here, but Amelia, thank you so much for that question. The next question that we have is from Olivia, and she said, what would you say if you can pinpoint sorry, let me go again. What would you say, if you can, is the main difference between acting in a musical and in a play? What are the challenges that arise in both, and what do you do to overcome them?
There are different styles of everything. Sometimes you can do a play and it feels like a musical in terms of its presentation and so on. And there are musicals that feel like, you know, when you're singing that you're just speaking. And there are others that do want you to, as soon as the music starts, that they do want you to do a quick ball change and turn out, and you're ready, and give it a Broadway belt. There's very different things. I would go back to that former thing I said when I talked about elongating the words that you speak and actually taking what you have to sing away from the notes, keeping the rhythm, but away from the music and away from the notes you have to sing, and speak what you have to sing as if it were a speech, and keep it in the rhythm, so you can get used to expressing what you really need to express through the words before you add the music. That really helps with me. And you know, people only sing when they can no longer speak, because the words aren't enough, so they have to engage in a greater form of communication, and that's song.
Yeah, so no, that's great, and thank you, Olivia, for that question. It's really brilliant. My next question is from Alexandra, and she says, being such a diverse actor, acting in musicals, theatre, film and TV, which of your performances have you learnt the most from and why? That's a really good question, actually. I'm jealous I didn't come up with that one myself.
I think I've learned most, of course, from all of the performances that have challenged me.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned a lot of things, really. I'm very, 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 very critical of myself. I'm not really happy with anything that I do, to be honest with you. I get to, greater and greater bits of sort of achievement. I suppose I cross certain lines when I get the chance to do something, but it's never perfect. It's never right.
Mm-hmm.
I could always do it better.
Yeah.
So I just try and work on all of those weaknesses whenever I do something. I learned a lot when I did As You Like It with Declan in '92. I learned loads when I did Company with Sam Mendes. I learned loads when I did Red Velvet with India Rubber-Singham. I doing Undercover for the BBC was really good, written by Peter Moffat, and working with Sophie Okonedo on the screen was brilliant. I learned a lot from her. I just keep learning, keep thinking, how can I do this better? I think what I do as well for screen acting is I watch documentaries. I think it's really nice to watch real people saying real words as if they've really made them up in a real moment. And sometimes it's life and death situations that they're dealing with, but it's documentary, and look at how real people react.
Yeah.
And because I think there's a pattern in our acting that we're learning to act subtly by watching other actors act in either film or TV. And I don't like that. And I can see when people do that, and it bores me. It just bores me. Certain ways of hitting your mark, certain ways of turning away and coming into focus, certain tricks, it bores me. So I like watching people in documentaries who kind of, they're not acting. And that's what we all should look like we're doing, is just not acting. Yeah,
that's true. And what I love about that question and your answer, Adrian, is that, I think a lot of people, especially at the beginning of their acting career, kind of feel once they finish drama school that's it, that's the learning over, and then now you're an actor. But part and parcel of the job is that you're always learning, and you're always trying to develop your brain and expand your mind, so then you can have that full empathy with these characters and these people. I won't even call them characters, these people that we are undertaking and having to take care of when we're performing. So the fact that you're saying that you are constantly learning is a real nice reminder that it doesn't stop when you get 25, 26, you finish drama school, or however old you are when you finish drama school, and you then become an actor. It's an ongoing process, and it'll never stop until you stop, basically. So it's a really true. It's a really great question. So thank you so much, Alexandra, for that. My next one's from Stephen Jameson. I know we've slightly picked up on it, but if maybe just kind of like getting it by definition here, he said, and also he might tell me off if I don't say his question. So but, he said, in your opinion, what is the difference in preparation between TV and film?
There was a time when TV was shot much quicker than film. Sometimes that isn't the case. There are some TV that is shot with a big budget and is shot like film is, and there's lots of films that are now shot like get it in hand quick. The difference in preparation, I don't think there is one. I really don't think there is one. I don't even think there is a difference in preparation for the director and preparing the storyboard, and that all circles around budget and where you're going to be shooting and what you're going to be shooting. So both things appear on screen. We're so used to now we're in a different world. We're so used to the digitization of recorded material happening across the board. There used to be 8 years ago where when they said camera would roll and then the film would get up to speed, and the same thing would happen with the sound, and then when they were running at speed they would say we're ready, and then you had to say action as quickly as possible because you were burning film. You were going through film, and film was expensive. So as soon as the scene was over, they said, cut, and they had to
Yeah.
cut then because they, you know, it cost money to develop it and so on. Nowadays, it's information and a processing file, you know, on a stick or whatever, and you have a DAT wrangler, a DIT wrangler who transfers the information from the stick, whatever you're using, to a drive and then puts it back in the camera empty. So the need to say action and cut has, you know, become, once you've paid for it, you've paid for it. So you can just roll on a rehearsal. You can roll on all sorts of things. It must have been terrible when Stanley Kubrick was doing, you know, 50 takes of something and he was on film.
Yeah.
Whereas now you do 50 takes of something, people are just thinking about the time that they've got to move on to the next thing. So I don't think there is a difference in preparation between TV and film. Both things are digitized. Both things can be shot on the same kinds of cameras. Some films, you know, big sequences in films, they're going, how did you do that? Oh, we had a little SLR D5, you know, in the back of a taxi. Yeah. What? And it blew up to a big screen. And the same is true for TV. So no, there's no difference really. It is about budget. It's about how much time you have to shoot, and it's about where you're shooting and what the constraints are there, I think.
Yeah, perfect. Well, and thank you, Stephen, for that question as well. The next question I have is from Iverson, and he says, can you give us an example of an experience that you treasure and an experience you wish you could have done differently in your training and or your career?
The things that I wish I could have done differently were the opportunities that I think I wasted. But you're never going to know when those opportunities are, and you're never going to know what they were. The things that I wish I could have done differently is when I was young and eager and out of drama school and trying to work in a certain way. Because I didn't know what was going to happen to me when I was older, I had a certain amount of fear that got in the way of my work. And that fear was not only based on an industry that wouldn't want me or wouldn't give me an opportunity. That was firmly set in my mind. It was also a fear that actually, or even after training, I'm not good enough. And I can't do this. And actually that isn't true for anybody who's gone through this kind of process of training. I think that we are all good enough. We all have different strengths and different weaknesses. Continue to work on the weaknesses all the time. But then it's just down to the uncontrollable thing of chance and luck and, you know, getting the opportunity and grabbing it with both hands. So some incredible actors are not working. Some incredible actors are doing something else. Some actors who aren't as good as those actors are known for being brilliant and on stage all the time. So the industry doesn't always get it right. Life doesn't always get it right.
That's true.
But all you've done when you've left drama school and gone through the training, all you've done is you've given yourself more opportunity to stand in the space where those chances may strike you. That's all you've done. You haven't guaranteed yourself a damn thing. And so you should greet every day like you are standing in the space where those opportunities might come along. But you know, and I'll go back to the question and answer the proper question later. I think I've gone off on a tangent here, but I would say that, you know, you're kind of, all of us in training, I'm talking to those people who are recently left drama school or are still at drama school now. You're what's ahead of you is precious, you know. And if this industry had absolutely turned its back on me very early on, I would have turned left and done something else, a sympathetic industry, a sympathetic, you know, course of work, a sympathetic career. But I would not have waited at the door of an industry that is not a meritocracy, that is not fair, and is sometimes quite narrow-minded. I would not wait for fair treatment from an industry that can, at times, a lot of the time, be like that. I would have just moved somewhere else. So you were just, you know, you're in training to do that. You're in training to get the opportunities. Be gently hard on yourself and make sure that you understand that even if you're good, it may not all fall into your lap. And so you're being good. You must be prepared that your being good as an actor might be used to serve you in another course of work in teaching or something. You'll be an amazing teacher. You'll be a fantastic choreographer. You'll be a great singing teacher because you understand what it was like to study emotion properly and empathy properly because of your drama training. And maybe that is your path. And, you know, the country needs those too. So it's not all about, I'm going to be a great actor and everything. Try be focused on all of that. But I was so scared that it wouldn't work. That part of that trapped me in certain ways, and I wish I hadn't been that scared. Something that I remember, that's an experience I remember, is we played As You Like It in Sofia in Bulgaria in 1992, I think it was 93. Anyway, but it was a weak clause 28 was a law against the promotion of homosexuality. I think they changed it because people protested it so much, they changed it to clause 29 and then clause 30. But anyway, it was a clause that said, you know, we can't promote homosexuality, so we can't teach it. It's there, but we can't teach it. And I hope I'm not summarizing that, praising that in a bad way. But that's basically what it was. And there was marches and everything like that about it. But in Sofia in Bulgaria, as it was at the time, the law against homosexuality had been repealed the week before we started playing. And I remember being on stage with Orlando, and we did this tango at the end where Rosalind and Orlando got married, and we kissed at the end of the play. And the audience, you could feel the whole audience take this sharp intake of breath.
Yeah.
Like that. Like, what's going to happen? And we turned and just smiled at them. And there was this eruption of cheering and stamping of feet and clapping. And I'll never forget that. It wasn't about us. It wasn't about the way that I danced my tango. It was purely about the idea of what they were seeing on stage and how that pertained to their own social circumstance. And it was a wonderful moment.
No, yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, that story at the end, like, it must have been quite a worrying and kind of terrifying thing also, like knowing that going into that performance or those performances that you did, just knowing that, you know, like they could hate us for doing this, like, you know. But
it was weird because they could hate us for, I mean, I was, for all intents and purposes, I was pretending to be something. I was being an actor. I was pretending to be a certain thing, and that represented a certain sexuality on stage. But that wasn't my sexuality, so I was pretending to be it. So even though I'm thinking, people live through this.
Yeah.
For lots of people, this is their life. You know, I can be on stage and, you know, do all of this. But if my life was this was who I was, how much scarier would that be? So, yeah. You know, when you're not being paid for it. You know, it's a strange thing. And so it gave us, you know, all the more... I suppose it just made us think that, no, what we're doing is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at this time, and we had a ball. We really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Iverson, for that question. And I love our like little segue there as well onto that, because it's really worth mentioning, you know, especially in these crazy times as well. I think it's definitely lovely that we had a moment to kind of chip into that as well. So thank you as well, Adrian, for that.
Oh, welcome.
And I have one more question here from Sophie. And she's asked, what is your dream Shakespeare role that you have yet to play? I think that's a lovely way to kind of wrap it up, actually, because
it is. I had been thinking about Richard III for a while, but I don't know whether someone like me should just gently step to the side and allow someone else to play that role in these times. But that had been hovering around for a bit. But I am looking forward to the day that I can play King Lear much later on, because obvs, you know, I'm going to have to wait, at least 2.5 years.
Well,
So
I mean, black doesn't crack, so it might be a while.
Crack. It might be a while. Maybe 30 years I'll have to wait. Anyway, but I was thinking that might be nice to do. And I've recently, somebody asked me about musicals and whether I wanted to do, what kind of musical role I wanted to do. And I was thinking about it. And I just realized that I'd love to play Sweeney Todd at some point. But again, that's going to be, I'll wait a little bit if that opportunity ever comes along. But that's it. Yeah, just those three, I suppose.
Yeah,
circling around my head.
I mean, they're fantastic roles as well.
Yeah.
And trust me, Adrian, I'll be getting front row seats to all of them when they all happen. So don't you worry. But I just kind of want to say thank you to everyone that sent in their questions. They were all really brilliant and marvelous. I'm jealous that you have a better brain than me. And yeah, I think if there's maybe anything else you might want to add or kind of say to, I think that will probably be our time. I know I've been speaking a lot, so I'll definitely get you away from this rattling that's going on right now. But,
no, that's fine. It's fine. What would I say? It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult now because we're all sort of distanced and we're not sure when we're going to be back in rooms working together. And if there's one thing that this kind of training needs, it needs you all to be in the same space, working together. It's not like you can do an open university course on being an actor. So I hope that, we're all drama schools are able to get back to that soon. It's striking how much, what a strong part of British culture acting and theatre is. When you remove it and you suddenly look around and think there are restaurants struggling, bars are struggling, not simply because of the footfall, but because the footfall is increased because of the theatres and because of the playhouses and because of, so it's a symbiotic relationship, and I'm hoping that we can all get back to it soon. But guys, stay strong, keep reading, keep stretching, keep singing at home and annoying your neighbours.
Get those noise complaints. Get them.
Those noise complaints, because when we're back, we'll be very, very busy.
And I'm so excited for that day. I feel like I've got a massive countdown clock in my room, just ticking, just waiting for the day. But Adrian,
there's one. Sorry, before you go, there's one.
No.
Just very, very generally to Mountview, and it's moved to Peckham, and all the work it's doing in Peckham, and the fact that it's taken that site in Peckham and has not been exclusive, elusive, or monocultural in its outlook. It's doing some fantastic work, and I pop in there every Saturday and Tuesday evening when it's open to do martial arts there with people. So it's a great space, and it's doing some great work, and I can't wait till you open up and carry on that great work.